is sports fans. We are back for another episode of The Real and the Rare. Back for a second time this evening, and we got another special guest for you this evening, as we're going to be joined by James Brooks, the Hooligan, as his page says, the original Hooligan, because I did talk to my man Zach here about a month ago when they first made the announcement, and his nickname is also the Hooligan. So I think we need to clear that up, right? So is you and Zach both have that nickname now. Obviously, you're the main event. You're the big fish on the card for the 14th. But have you ever had one of those situations where you guys have like the same nickname?
Never. Zach came to the last Ice Wars and tried to use Hooligan, and they said no. And I think truthfully, I think he's been the Hooligan longer than me, but I think I have dibs on Ice Wars, so we'll see. Now we're both the Hooligan, and maybe we'll have to fight for it one of these days. We'll see.
That's the way it works in the combat sports world, my friend.
Yep.
But obviously, first and foremost, appreciate the time. It's a crazy time. We're down within the last 2 weeks. Obviously next weekend will be the big event. How excited are you for this, man? Like, obviously, for people who don't know, go ahead, James.
I've been waiting for a while. I mean, the last one was in about the same time in 2023. So I know they've been putting a lot of stuff together, but yeah, a lot of us have been waiting for a while. So we're ready to go.
I mean, yeah, for like people who don't know, like obviously this is like I guess another iteration of Ice Wars. Regardless, you look on BKFC's profile, it's BKFC Iced. Is it Ice Wars? How are you referring to this? Is this, you feel like this is the same promotion or what? How are you feeling about this?
Well, I mean, we're not there yet. Sorry, I live right by O'Hare, so that we may have some planes going overhead, but I'm not there yet, so I don't know what's going to be different about this one, but there's definitely more people involved, and some of the same faces, some new faces. They've got some new ideas here, so we'll see how it all pans out. But at the end of the day, we're still getting in that same box, and the rules are the same. So
yeah, I mean it's a weird thing now. Like you have bare knuckle boxing is kind of bought into your guys' idea of Ice Wars, or if it's BKFC Ice, whatever. It's good to have somebody with a good track record of promoting. I guess the unique fights. I guess we'll say it that way, and having somebody that's putting it on a larger scale is probably definitely one of the bigger differences from the original iteration that we've seen about this time last year.
We're all excited to have BKFC involved. Everybody knows who they are, and it's been growing over the years. So hearing about that partnership, or however the partnership works, is exciting for all of us. So
yeah, and obviously the first event is here, 14th. Battle of the Border in Canada. We're obviously for most of our hockey guys that's something that's really easy for you guys to buy into, right? USA versus Canada.
It's kind of the time for it right now after the Four Nations and everything that's gone on this year politically between the two countries. So I can't say that there's a better time for this. So
yeah, man. I mean, you touched on it with what happened. All-Star break with the Four Nations event, and it kind of really highlighted what old-time hockey really was about. I mean, when you were talking about just NHL hockey in general, we've kind of seen this aspect of the sport kind of pushed out and pushed away. The big hits are typically going away. The fighting is close to none. I mean I'm from Philadelphia, so like when I was told what hockey was, it was Broad Street bully hockey. And that's kind of all done and gone away. And I guess with what Ice Wars and what BKFC being involved, I think we're trying to save what's left of that aspect of hockey, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's Uh, all my buddies have been tuning in the last couple of years. Everybody's real excited about it. Hopefully, it grows and grows like UFC did in its early days. And you know, 20 years down the line, I can watch it with my kids and be like, "Yeah, I did that a while ago." So
Now I want to talk about just hockey in general. Like you were just talking about Four Nations. I'd be remiss not to bring up the Stanley Cup. It's here. You got the
yeah,
Oilers. You got the Florida Panthers down there. They're doing a rematch. You got one of the bigger superstars in the world, and Connor McDavid's there. What are your early predictions? You think Edmonton's going to finally get back over the hump and get their first Stanley Cup since the Gretzky years, or does Florida do exactly what they did to them a few years ago?
I mean, I think that, in my opinion, the longer the series goes on, the better a chance Florida has. They're scrappy. They wear the other team down. Edmonton's really top loaded with McDavid and Draisaitl, and they're top guys, and their fourth line and third line isn't quite as as deep as Florida. So I think if Edmonton can get it done in 5 or 6, then they end up being the champs. But if Florida stays and they go game 7, then it's probably going to go to Florida again. So it'd be nice to see McDavid win one just because he is, arguably the greatest player in the world right now. And it sucks having a guy who's that good that just hasn't won it. But
Yeah, man, it really like he's been. I mean, I think he's getting close to like 10 years in the league now, and
yeah,
yeah,
he's right
he's
there.
arguably been one of the more exciting guys to watch.
Oh
He
yeah,
just he just does everything so well, and you're right. It's like it's like really tough to see a guy being that good for that long. Face of the league,
yeah.
top of the league, however you wanna frame or reference that, and then just not being able to get it done during the playoffs. And
Yeah, I think the league wants Edmonton to win right now. It's also just from a Canadian perspective, it's probably nice for the cup to go back to Canada for the first time since '93. So, as much as I'm an American, I'd like to see an American team win. At the end of the day, I mean, the American teams are filled with Canadians, and the Canadian teams have Americans on them. So it's like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think for the league and for the face of the league and McDavid and whatnot, it'd be good to see Edmonton pull it off. So
yeah, I'm with you there. Like, obviously, little sour grapes for me, considering last time the Oilers hoisted one was against my Flyers. So, but cannot.
been a while though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 86, 87, something like that.
So yeah,
So it's one of those things, man. Like you were saying, it's you want to see a guy like Connor do his thing and get his validation of being a Stanley Cup champion. But
yeah,
like you said, there's just so much parity. Like it's not like the American teams just have American, like wherever the
right,
good hockey players are, that's where they are. It's
yeah,
it is a good time for growth, and I think you're right. I think despite the political nonsense or anything like that, I think I would like to see Edmonton kind of get it. I know the Maple Leafs were dying for a chance to get there because their drought
that'll
has
never
been
happen.
is even. I don't know if it's an organizational thing or just that team is just cursed in that way, but man.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they've got the playoff grit and the top guys. Matthews lights it up all season, and then he's nowhere to be found in the last few games in the playoffs. So, you see that from teams that they're just really well built, to win a bunch of games during the year, and then when it starts getting chippy in the playoffs and everybody's finishing every hit, and they got to really, claw and drag for every stride. Some guys just don't show up the same way. So. I don't know. It's a tough situation in Toronto. Like, do you blow it up? Do you not blow it up? I mean, I think whatever you do, hindsight's going to kick you. You blow it up, and you're looking at one of the best cores that you're blowing up. But at the same time, like they're not getting it done. So I don't envy the GM in Toronto, and the
I don't know if
choices
you
you got to
blow it
make
up,
over
but
there.
I mean, when you see like what your team is and things like that, like you have to at least retool or something. It's like we're not going to get over the hump of how we're currently constructed. So I mean, look what Philadelphia did, right? We were so close, and then we get knocked out by some really tough Black Hawk teams in the early 2010s, and have it sniffed it since then. Then you
So
see
stay on
guys
Blackhawks.
you see guys like Giroux and all these other guys. Giroux's on his second different team since leaving Philadelphia, so it's like one of these things where
Yeah,
it's you have to be mindful of when to do it. And I mean, with all the capital that Philadelphia has accrued over the past 3-4 years, then now you have a former player kind of pulling all the strings there. You bring in a guy like Tackett who was here before.
yeah,
I'd be interested to see what they could do over the next 2 years. They have a top 5 pick in this year's draft. They have a
yeah,
lot of young, good, solid players. It'd be interesting to see how they do it. Is that
yeah.
something that Toronto should look into? Just look into the formula that Danny Briere is kind of lifting into right now. Maybe you don't do a full blow up, but you do a retool to where you
Yeah.
get your guys some capital. I don't know if you try to get away from your lose your star power there for a minute, but listen, there's more than one guy, there's more than one line. There's so much that goes into being a world championship hockey team. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, like, how did you become like be this guy in hockey? Obviously, we're talking about the NHL and things like that. What was the thing that became the twinkle in your eye? Be like, listen, I gotta play. I gotta be a hockey guy. What?
I think it was kindergarten or first grade. I went to a school down in the city, and the group of kids that I was running around with were all playing hockey at the upscale country club down the street. And I just begged my parents to take me over there. And first they wanted nothing to do with it because it was I grew up in a pretty blue collar family. My parents worked pretty hard to give my brother and I everything we needed. And uh, the country club down the street was really upscale. So, but I just pushed and pushed, and next thing you knew, my mom brought me over, and they had like every member can bring a non-member in. So I was always good to be there because everyone on the team was members. So I played there a couple of years, and that was the start of it. And I just since the first season, that hockey's just been my life. So. Um, yeah, I don't know. That was the beginning.
I mean, I'm with you there. Like, listen, when I was getting to be a teenager is when the Eric Lindros trade happened, and it revitalized what hockey was here in the Philadelphia area. So it's like you find
Yes.
your little. We were playing street hockey, at the top of the street, turned like old tennis courts into our hockey rink and stuff like that. So we did
Yep.
whatever we could to find ways to play. It's not now you have more hockey rinks in the area to watch the sport grow to from the lower levels up. You have
Yeah.
your club hockeys. We have what they call flyer skate zones. Here in the city and in the surrounding areas, where you have multiple rinks and things of that nature. So a lot of the younger
Oh yeah.
kids can. So it's
Well, and that stuff grows with I think with the pro team in town. Like I mean, I coach here in Chicago, and we're seeing the end of like the kids start playing hockey because the Hawks are good, and then the numbers go down when they're not as good. So 2010 to 2016 or so, we had just this huge, like even a little bit before 2010, I'd say like 2008, the numbers just for the younger kids just got a lot greater. And I coach high school, so send that 10 years down the line, and then you're seeing those kids in high school, and then now we're starting to get out of that. So the numbers are going down a little bit because the Hawks haven't been good and since what 2015. So I think that's that's important for all these cities. You know, if the teams are competing, you see the youth programs grow. When the teams are in the cellar, you see the numbers go down. So
I don't think it's not just the success; it's the star power. You know, you
yeah, the
watch, you
marketing.
know, your Patrick Kanes and your Jason Toes kind of disappear and leave the area. It's like you have a pro hockey team that really doesn't have an identity. It is harder on you know the youth, high school, you know, college,
Yeah,
etc. So.
yeah.
But you know, now you said you're a high school coach, so how does that work for you? You know, you coach it, you train it, you play it, you do it all, my friend.
Yeah, no, I this is 10 years now. I've been a high school hockey director. I'm on my third program. I did 4 years at two different programs, and really just concentrating on just building them. You know, I took over St. Pat's High School in 2016. My brother was a coach there, and he passed away in 2016. So I kind of took over his spot, and he always wanted to kind of turn that program into, you know, more of a legit program as opposed to just kind of a pickup program. So we spent 4 years there and just, you know, beefed up the program and turned it into something a little more legit. And ended up leaving and going to Lake Zurich, where a little bit farther north, but it was a program that was about to fold, and we took that from 14 kids to up to over 40, from one team to three teams, and you know, back-to-back years in the league championship, and now I'm in Hinsdale, which is on the south end of the city, southwest, and that's been great. You know, there's a lot of money in Hinsdale, so the funding for the program and the locker room and some of the other stuff we have has been really nice to be able to utilize the film and some other stuff that you know, you don't have at some of the other programs. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's a full-time job. I'm there almost every night of the week for 3 to 5 hours, and I don't know. I like the high school program, being involved with high school versus travel. Uh, More so just because with the travel teams, it seems like the mindset is more like, who's going to be on my team this year? What are we going to do this year? Where are we sending a kid next year? And then you're just, that's it. It's like a complete reset every year. Whereas high school, I mean, these kids come in and they're 14 years old and they're or 13 years old, depending on when you meet them. You know, you meet them at the end of eighth grade when they're coming into spring league, and they're 13 and they're little kids, and you know, 4 years later they're graduating and they're 18 and they're grown-ups, you know. So you have this opportunity to like really influence them and not just grow like the player, but you know, more the person, and teach them those values that I think are really indicative of hockey as a sport. You know, you don't see NHL players getting arrested all the time. You don't see them have bad interviews. Every interview is the same, no matter what the question is. They talk about their teammates, how good the other team is, how they couldn't do it without their teammates, and some line about working hard. So it's, you know, just the culture of it is, I think, important for the kids that we coach, and helps them, you know, just become positive members of society. So that's why I haven't left high school. You know, want to just stick to that, because you really get to see the kids. I had one kid at Lake Zurich that freshman year, he came out of the locker room, and I told him I needed his email, and he said, "Coach, I don't have an email. I only have a Gmail." And then 4 years later, he graduates with a letter on his chest. He's like, you know, he's a senior and an adult. So like, you really get to see these kids grow up, and you know, there's a satisfaction to that. So.
Yeah, it's you know, I think that's the pleasure of being in those type programs. You know, you get to, you know, on the high school level, you kind of see them grow. And I agree, like the travel teams are hit or miss, man. Like, it doesn't matter if we're talking hockey, if we're talking baseball, like it's really into, like, you know, who's going to be there, who's the coaches, who the better, like it's rough in that situation. Like, it's even more so, like even when you get down to like the college level, it's really tough to kind of find ways to get to, you know, better yourself, develop good programs, and keep the better players with you.
Yeah, it's always a challenge, but you it's been a good 10 years. I plan to keep doing it. My boss, my day job works in the end schedule, so I'm able to be at both. And I got 4 kids at home, so got to do both to support.
It's definitely a fun thing, and I'm glad that you're with a good program there. You're going to continue to help it grow and all that, and it's it's a thankless job working with kids at times, but we as a coach, I'm sure you always find the pleasures that you get out of it, right? You hear me?
I don't think I hear you froze for a second.
I was just basically talking about the thankless job of being a high school level coach. It's you have to find your things that you get out of it more than what anyone else does, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, you're still a little choppy on my end too. Let me see if we can give that a second to clear up. But did want to kind of go into some combat sports before we get back into the BKFC Ice stuff. Last night we obviously Sugar Shane O'Malley's second attempt to get the title that didn't go quite his way. He's probably going to have to put together a multiple fight winning streak with some big wins over some top 5, top 10 guys to kind of get back there. It's I think he's got probably the largest road to climb to get back to potentially get it, unless Dashvili winds up losing the title or moving up.
Yeah. No, I didn't get to watch, but I got up this morning and I jumped right on to see who won last night. And no, it's tough to put together a little streak here before he's going to get on. Sometimes, I mean, when you're at the top, everybody's got it flared for you. It makes, just winning harder. So, it's not unusual to see guys like him there at the top for a while, and then somebody comes along and takes it from him. So.
And then the other big one was the co-main event. We seen the 2-time gold medal Olympic judo go claim the women's bantamweight title, and she's got a big fight coming up now because Amanda Nunes is unretired. They used to be teammates at America Top Team. The rumor around town is that the gym itself kind of pushed Amanda out to kind of start to promote Kayla, and Amanda's kind of the women's the one of the best women's fighters that we've seen in the UFC ever. And now this has to be her toughest challenge. I think Kayla is a bigger, stronger, better version of what a lot of fans expected Ronda to be. But she's the gold medal 2-time Olympian, not just an Olympian and a medalist. She was the best American female judoka we've ever seen. She was a PFL champion. She's now officially the UFC bantamweight champion. I think that's the fight that obviously makes the most sense, and there might be a little animosity between them behind the scenes, but I think that should probably be the biggest fight the UFC could put on this year, with all the rumors surrounding John Jones might be vacating the title and walking away from the sport.
Yeah, I mean, that whole debate's been going on forever, and I'm a little torn on it because personally, I think even if he fights Aspinall and loses, I still think his resume is the greatest. I mean, he's definitely sitting at the top right now. But I also think that regardless of that, like he's either got to fight Tom or vacate or be stripped. I mean, or at least book the fight. Like, fine, you want 6 more months, like book it. Sign the paperwork, give us the date, let everybody look forward to it. It's I don't think you should be able to be a champion no matter what your resume is, and just hang on to the belt. And I think that, and again, I mean, we've seen it with a bunch of guys before, where it's like, oh, this is the guy who's going to beat Jones, and then they don't beat him. So, as much as Tom's that guy right now, we may very well see taking everyone else down. But I do think that Tom's the biggest threat that he's had. And he's big, he's fast, he finishes everybody quickly. And I think that at this point, Jones is kind of showing that he's hesitating a little bit. You know, he doesn't want to go down and get knocked out. You know, and have that image out there in the world. I mean, he's practically perfect if you don't count the loss to Matt Hamill, if you could even call it a loss. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see the fight. I think a lot of these guys are arguing for Jones. Like, well, he doesn't have to fight. You know, he's done enough to not have to fight. I'm like, aren't you a UFC fan? Like, don't you want to see this fight? Like, isn't that the whole point to watch these guys fight? Like, if they're not fighting, what's going on here? You know, the guy's gonna hang out for a couple of years. Like, put some other guys in there and let them fight. You know, so yeah, I hope they get it booked. I want to see that, and I want to see it soon because after that, you know, you got Ngannou talking about coming back, and I'd love to see Aspinall Ngannou. I think that would be like the fight of the ages.
Yeah, as you were just talking about, I was gonna pull this one up. Is you know, the rumor mill that has been going around is that Francis Ngannou is might be interested in returning to the UFC. Obviously, he still has a contract with PFL. There would have to be a lot of concessions made on both sides for that fight to happen. But regardless if it's John Jones, Tom Aspinall, whatever. Francis Ngannou is a tough dude at heavyweight, and be interesting to see what the UFC can do because I've been sitting there saying for a while that the UFC is in trouble in some other ways. Obviously, they're always going to be the go-to place for top-level mixed martial arts fighting, but at the same time, they're not developing the stars that we attach ourselves to as people who consume it. You know, we used to for the longest time the Ultimate Fighters where you would see 5 to 10 guys a year that fans would be invested to see if they develop, to see if they become champion, to see them win, to see them lose, whatever.
It's also that, I mean, we've come so far in sports, you know, like if you watch hockey now and you see the evolution of the game compared to, you know, even 25 years ago, just how different the game is, how precise it is, you know, the expectations of everybody, the training, you know, just the high level. And then you look across all the sports and see that, you know, for a sport like hockey or basketball or football, you know, you're judged on your consistency, and you know, you can play fantastic for 80% of every game and you're a good player. But when you're talking about fight, I mean, it's a split second and you lost because you made one mistake or the other guy, you know, was a half a click smarter than you for 1 second, or whatever the circumstances are. So to be undefeated and to just always win is a lot tougher in combat sports than it is, you know, to be a star like, you know, Patrick Kane or Aaron Rodgers or, you know, whoever your hometown guy is that, you know, you love. He has a bad game and it doesn't matter. It doesn't stick with his resume forever. But, you know, you go out there and you're, you know, you got the flu or you got a bad shoulder or like, you know, you got something going on for a fight and you lose, like that sticks with you forever. So I think part of that is that people, you know, all these fans, they follow, you know, they, like you said, you know, they're not creating these people, but part of it is that 20 years ago, you know, you've got your Silvas and your GSPs and, you know, the guys who come up like that and they don't lose as much. So it's so easy to jump on one of those guys and be like, oh, I love this guy. You know, he never loses. And if he does lose, it's against another guy like that. Now the gap from top guy to bottom guy is just so much smaller. So the chances of guys getting knocked off their thrones or not making it to the top because, you know, they had an off night or they got caught with one or something like that, it's you know, the chances are a lot higher because everybody's just so much better, you know.
It's rough. Like where you were just sitting there saying like the you have a bad night in MMA and you know all of a sudden you're the worst guy in the world. But you
And
know
the bandwagon appeal, the hate, I mean, holy hell, they all. And you know, and listen, I'm a fight fan, but I'm in a couple of these like Facebook groups with, and the fight
The
crowd.
vitriol that comes out of people after a loss is insane. It's like they're waiting for somebody to fall to just pounce on them.
I mean, yeah, and you read some of these comments, and I'm like, so I know the guy you're talking about got knocked out last night, but are you sure you didn't get knocked out last night? Because, like, I can't even read what you're writing. Nonetheless, trying to formulate that
What is it
thought.
with Bo Nickel lost a few weeks ago? They're like, oh, he's been fraud checked. I'm like, he lost one fight. One fight.
That's what I mean. Like,
is he maybe a little bit overhyped? Yeah, sure. He wasn't the best wrestler that's coming into the UFC over the last 10 years, but he's one of the better, more well-rounded. You know, he's got a nice following, things of that nature. I get that, but to be sitting there to be continually tearing these guys and girls down after one misstep, I think it's still funny. Like, all right, like we always hear like the GOAT talks, and I like to break it down to like, you know, a Mount Rushmore. And that's still even hard because we have different eras. We have different weight class. We have men. We have women. And I was sitting there. I'm like, someone was sitting there saying, I forget who the media personality that they're just saying like that they don't enjoy watching women's mixed martial arts anymore. I'm like, Rose Namajunas is one of the best stories in mixed martial arts that we've had in 10 years. Literally, she you know, this most unassuming girl ever, just, you know, quiet, keeps to herself. Think, you know, not this person who's just a loudmouth barking, you know, talking trash, you know, like Juliana Pena. Don't want to drag her into it, but that's what she does very well. She agitates, she gets people going with the comments. But Rose Namajunas had knocked out one but two really, really tough fighters at strawweight. I think should have her in a conversation for somebody's Mount Rushmore of great. Like, stopping Joanna Jędrzejczyk and then losing the title to Carla Esparza and then coming back and winning the title again. Like, how do you not get behind and support a fighter like that? But no, they want to talk about how terrible she is. Oh, she's lucky.
Well,
there's no luck in combat sports. Stop playing with me.
And the majority of the people saying this stuff have never gotten in the ring with anybody. They've never even been in a street fight. They wouldn't know what to do if somebody shoved them. And, you know, they're here dogging this person. And it's like, you know, the number 10 ranked heavyweight is probably in the top 1% in the world of like the toughest people. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, that guy's the toughest guy in the room, like 99% of the rooms he walks into. So it's like, you can rag on him all you want and tear him down, but, you know, it's like talking about a guy in the NHL and being like, man, he's awful. It's like, yeah, he's in the NHL. Like, he's the 1% of the 1%. And he may not be Connor McDavid, but like, he's got a stall in that locker room and his name is on it. And he makes $1 million every year playing a kid's game. So like, you can rag on him all day, but he's better than you. So like, you know, so it's
we're always gonna have the armchair fan, you know, who's never gotten up. You know, the best ones are football fans, and they complain about fantasy, you know, their fantasy team. Oh, you just cost me a game. They're only worried about the game they're playing, not the game you're playing off of their game.
Yeah, like, they don't care if your fantasy team wins the league this year. Like, you know, so yeah, you know, I think it's just the nature of the beast, and that's why you kind of just gotta tune it out. You know, it's kind of like being in the penalty box at the visiting stadium, and somebody's hanging over the glass telling you like you're the worst piece of shit they've ever seen before, and like, you know, here and there a guy will engage in them, and then he's going back and forth, and like, I just laugh. I think it's funny. Like, how much did you pay for your ticket to watch me play? Like, all right, cool. Like, keep yelling because this is entertainment.
The first thought that comes to my mind is the Ty Domi fight here in Philadelphia,
where he pulled the guy into the box, and then he ended up flying that fan to Florida for a weekend series in Florida, and the guy like sued him. They sued Comcast. They were like suing everybody, and Ty called the guy and was like, "You want to come down to Florida?" He signed some autographs, gave him some stuff. The guy just dropped all the lawsuits. It's like, you know, so it's
some people, they just want their 2 minutes.
Man. Yeah, and I think that one was a little different because that guy like physically engaged with him, and I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
at that point,
you're not getting millions of dollars from Comcast or the
no.
league. Probably told Domi to, like, listen, reach out to the guy, have him come down for a couple games, show him a
Yeah.
good time and get him off our back. I don't want to be paying our lawyers double what it should cost us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you usually don't see that kind of stuff happening, but it's the nature of the
Doesn't
beast.
happen anymore. If you really think about it, like, the stuff like that is close to not. It's what we were talking about. Like that old time hockey feel is absolutely gone.
Yeah.
Like, you always have your rivalries and stuff like that. Like, especially when we're talking about your big four sports. That we're talking baseball, football, hockey,
Yep.
basketball, whatever. But, like, those things that kind of, I guess, what made the sport, I guess, what it was. I mean, it's changed so much. Like, I don't think you'll ever see anything like that. You
Well,
don't
we still have senior hockey. So senior A in Canada and some of these Mountain West teams, and I got a senior team I travel with, and we try to keep it old time hockey. You go out there and you have a good time, but when shit hits the fan, the gloves come off, and everybody's going at it. So we'll try to
You're
hold on to
saying the
that as
gloves
long as
come
we
off,
can.
right? I do want to talk about some of the rule sets that we're going to go into with Ice Wars with BKFC Ice, because when I was talking to Zach Hughes a few weeks ago, we were talking about that stuff. You guys are going to have something attached to your jersey, so your jerseys aren't getting pulled over your head and things of that nature.
Yep.
Like, if for fans that are looking for that old time hockey feel, what should they expect and what shouldn't they expect if they're coming to either the June 14th or the 28th show up in Canada? What would you tell these fans that they should expect?
I mean, it doesn't get any more old time hockey than getting rid of the hockey and just fighting. But the weirdest part for me is traveling without my stick. You just bring in the bag. You don't even need the stick. So, but yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it. Everybody's just throwing down, and it's a lot of the guys are returners that have fought Ice Wars before. A lot of the new guys are guys that I've known or crossed paths with over the years. And I think the coolest part about Ice Wars versus, like, UFC or PFL or boxing production is you always see the guys on stage and they're like, you can't always tell what they're saying, but they're just like talking mad shit to each other and like just showboating and posturing. And it's like, a guy like me, I'm like, all right, guys, just fight. Like, I don't want to hear who can call each other better names. Like, this is silly, There's just like none of that with Ice Wars. At any of the Ice Wars I've been to, like, there's just a respect level from everybody. You shake hands with the guys. You like go to the pre-fight meals, and like everybody just hangs out with each other. And then before you go out, you're like, all right, good luck, man. And you go out there, and then you're like trying to kill each other. Like the entire time, you're like trying to tear the other guy's head off. And when the fight's over, it's like fist bump, shake hands, hug. You drink beers afterwards, and like there's no disrespect. Like nobody's like, "Oh, I fucked you up," or like anything like that. Everybody's just like, "Bro, like you got in and hung with me," or like, "Man, you landed a couple solid ones there," or like whatever the circumstances are. Everybody's just cool. We go and drink together, and like there's just none of that. So I think that just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is the culture of the sport and why it's the best sport. So,
So
where else do you get to settle the
you don't feel
beast?
like we're going to have the Conor McGregor effect, where you're going to see a lot of guys just trying to rib on each other beforehand?
I don't think that's, and especially looking at this card, like I just don't think we're going to see any of that. That kind of stuff.
They did announce the card, so I'm going to have to pull this one up here. Obviously, you get the pleasure of being the main event on the 14th, and you got some familiar names. Obviously, we were talking about Zach. I'm going to be talking to Derek Gates in a few days, and he's actually an actual bare knuckle fighter before this.
Right. Yeah.
And the one name that there's two names that recently just came in there for some former UFC guys is Charles Rosa just signed a contract, and I didn't see him on this one, so I'm assuming they're saving him for the Canada card. But we also seen why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden? Brian Kellner.
Okay.
So I assume that he would be on that one, but like, and you know, you're getting some more former UFC guys that are getting some roles in there. Obviously, former UFC fighters is the president of Ice Wars now. They
Yep.
announced that last week. You got the player personnel guy for BKFC is switching over and also going to be the same position here for the Ice Wars.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of that combat sports feel to it. So for one thing, I guess we know that it's going to be a fun show regardless.
Yeah. No, I'm excited, and I love the guys who come. You know, like the last Ice Wars in Wyoming. I'm forgetting his name, but he's from Denver. He was a UFC guy who had like a little bit of a hockey background, but he wasn't a guy who got in
Chris
hockey
Camozzi, right?
fights. Sorry,
Was it Chris Camozzi?
maybe he fought Ryan Devine in the first round. And I'll tell you, I mean, you could tell, like I could tell, and I think some of the other hockey fighters could tell that he didn't have hockey fighting experience. But his background in combat sports, I mean, he was tough as nails, and he fought that entire fight. Divine's a tough dude. You know, you gotta be able to chuck him to hang in there with him, and he hung in the whole fight. You know, and I think that if he would have grown up playing hockey and been a hockey fighter and had that experience as a hockey fighter, that fight might have gone a little differently. But so it's cool to see these guys hop in because they're all just so used to fighting, so they're tough as nails. But you got to see like where their hockey background takes them because you go back and you YouTube me and watch some of my fights from like 2010, and it's I'm just a different person. I'm like a kid in those fights, and you fast forward 15 years and 150 fights later, and it's like it's just a different the experience matters. Like, you know what I mean? Even 10 fights, from fight 1 to fight 10 is a big difference. So, I'm excited to see some of the guys whose names aren't as familiar to me, who are coming from, the MMA side or the BKFC side, and see what they bring.
Yeah, it's it's you say one thing. It's definitely experience. It's definitely one thing. Like if you're, obviously if you're a fighter, you're going to be tough regardless. But hockey fighting is definitely something different, and you have to be in that realm to kind of make be able to fight well as it pertains to ice fights. And that I think that's going to be the interesting thing. Obviously, we'd already talked about you have some veterans from the original iteration of Ice Wars. You have guys that have been around that are going to be on this card. But I think as it goes along, as you guys start putting more events together and get sanctioned in more cities and or provinces, depending if we're talking USA or Canada. But
I think the hope is that it grows to a point where the fights can be on real ice. Where the immediate crowd behind you is so big that they can fill a rink or an ice arena. Because there is a huge difference between getting on the synthetic and getting on the real ice. Yeah, I mean, you're really like walking on the synthetic. Like you're really not out there skating. You can go do, you can do some training on the synthetic where you're truly skating. But if you go out there for a hockey fight and you try to maneuver and pivot your weight and shift the same way on the synthetic as you do on the ice, like you either get stuck and you topple over or your edge goes out from under you. It's a lot easier to fall down, and it's also a lot tougher on your legs. So halfway through the fight, you realize that like your legs are really tired. Like you want to sit down because the plastic just takes so much more to stay up, and like I said, you don't have that ability to just kind of like shift your weight, like lift your weight off one leg and turn, your blade can't just like glide across the ice. You're taking steps. And, I think that's an advantage for guys who've been on the synthetic versus guys who haven't. If you haven't trained on the synthetic, you haven't fought on the synthetic, it's a different ball game. So, a lot of times you see these guys come out, you'll see two guys who haven't been on it, and then the first, 30 seconds of the fight, both guys have gone down a couple times, and everybody's like, oh, how come they can't stay on their feet? It's like, you give them a minute. Like they got to find their footing on this new surface, So, But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it go to real ice. And I heard a rumor that maybe the 28th is on real ice, but I don't know if that's confirmed or not. If that was just
Yeah, I haven't
something.
heard anything about it. Like, I mean, I've been trying to keep up with it as much as I can, but like, I definitely knew that that you guys were not on real ice, and
Yeah.
some of the rules are slightly different, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's kind of the interesting thing because you have guys who've been ice hockey players or fought on ice, and now you're now have to do a different type of training to get
Yep.
used to a different service, and that
And
completely.
you got to find it. Like you got to find the synthetic. It's not just everywhere. I mean, I train and Mendoza trains at a place called BTE out in it's like 45 minutes north of Chicago. But I mean, that's the synthetic that I have around me. So if I want to go train, it's it's a 45-minute drive in the morning to go up there and be on the synthetic. So you got to get creative with the training, and you gotta be able to have those resources. If you're from a small town in Canada, you may not have synthetic ice to train on. So there's a lot of variables to that. I think that the weight classes too, like right now it's like 200 plus. So if you're over 200 pounds, you're a heavyweight. And there's a big difference between a guy like me who's if I stand up as straight as I can stand, I'm 6 feet tall, and I'm anywhere from 210 to 225 depending on what I'm doing. And then you hop in the ring with like Zach Hughes, who's 6'7" or 6'9" or something astronomical, and 275 pounds. So it's not like back in the old days of Pride or UFC where the guys are 50 pounds apart, but you can double leg the guy or you can be quicker than him. I mean, a hockey fight, like you got to grab onto the guy. That's what you have to do, and then you got to chuck him. So if you got a guy who's got 8-inch reach on you, and he gets a holdy and pushes you out, like sometimes you're fighting that whole fight, you can't even reach his face. So that's what makes like John Morasti, who's involved in Ice Wars, but he was a short guy who fought everybody in his day, and he did a really good job fighting the big guys as a little guy. So watching guys like him is like how did he do that so consistently? Because it's not the same as a boxing match where you can be a little smaller but you're quicker and you land more punches and you dodge his punches. Like you got to grab onto the guy. So there's just a lot of different variables, and I think a lot of things that make this sport really unique.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it develops, grows, things of that nature. And
Yeah.
hopefully, I'm with you. Hopefully, you guys can get off the synthetic and get back to real ice. And
Yeah.
there isn't that much issues in it because I mean that's what it really is about. Like I understand why. I mean it's the money side of things too.
Yeah.
Having the ice surface is not the easiest thing to pay for either. So I
You
get. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you can't put real ice in a casino main event center. Like that's not something that's going to work out. So you got to be able to put it in an arena. It's got to be the right size arena. You have to be able to fill the arena, because if you don't fill the arena, the atmosphere is not good and you got empty seats, and that's a bad look. So I think that's and nobody's like said this to me, but I'm hoping that that's kind of the goal, is to grow it to a point where they're filling arenas and the fights happening at at center ice, and they've got a ring around it on real ice. And my hope is that we're just in the early days right now, and we're doing what we can to pave the way for more to come. So
I hope you're right. I'm obviously I love old school hockey and enjoy that aspect of it. Miss the aspects of it in the NHL, and hopefully with Ice Wars or BKFC Ice again, however they're going to name this out moving forward is kind of where you guys are going to be able to put on a show, and we'll see at the end of the month how successful it is. Hopefully, as we keep getting closer to the 14th, you get your hand raised and it's successful, and can get back in there as soon as you can. Is this something you hope that you get more than a handful of events a year? Hoping to get 5 to 10 or something like that.
I'd love to see it just start being kind of like UFC. You find yourself a champion at each weight class, and each event has a headliner that's fighting for the belt or the title of that weight class, and they do an event once a month, and it just happens all year round. Every 4 or 5 months, you got a title fight for each weight class, and I think that's kind of the direction they're going. The tournaments were fantastic and they're a lot of fun, but it's very risky for the company because semifinals happens and guy wins but breaks his hand or breaks his skate or something happens, and then all of a sudden you don't have a championship fight. So it's dangerous for the production to just keep running the tournaments. So I think that it's a good move on their part to move to these single fights. It's also, you saw the last Ice Wars, you saw Divine and Tebow fight in the final, and I think I could be off, but I think Tebow went to the bonus round of each of his fights to get to the final, and Divine won his fights in 2 rounds or less each time. So you get to the final, and one of the guys on the same night has fought 2.5 more rounds than the other guy. So there's just a fatigue factor. I mean, you're already at 6,500 foot altitude. The people fighting aren't from that area, so they're not used to it. And you're on your third fight of the night. So I'm excited for the new format, and I hope that they're going to start crowning champs and just keep it going.
Yeah, let's hope we can see some continued development with this, and I'm with you. Like, hopefully, you can crown a few champions. You can get it happening in a way where you guys continue to have not just growth of the sport itself, but growth where guys are actively wanting to kind of push themselves and see who's the best ice fighter at heavyweight, at middleweight, at etc. As you go down the line. So, again, best of skill to you. What I typically do here at the end is kind of throw the proverbial microphone, throw the floor to you. Anyone you'd like to thank, training partners, teammates, any sponsors you may have, shoot that out. Anywhere that you're on social media, let the fans and listeners know where we can find you, and anything you want to last words or anything you want to add to it. The time is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram, Billy_Brooks24. And, I've been shouting out my sponsors. I definitely want to shout out an old friend of mine, Kevin Howard, and United Shipping Company for jumping on yet again to sponsor me. Smiling Patient Dental Care. He makes me a new custom mouth guard every fight, and he's been taking care of my teeth for forever. And then just a shout out to my kids, because I don't usually do that, and I always think about it afterwards. But my son Tommy, my daughters Aria, Eliza, and Addie. Just shout out to them, and appreciate you having me on, and appreciate everybody at Ice Wars, from AJ to Charlie to Kevin and Zach and everybody else involved for putting it together.
Well, definitely appreciate your time, my friend, and like I said, best of skill to you. Hopefully, you get your hand raised, able to move on, and see you hopefully compete a few more times this year inside BKFC Ice Wars. Again, however they want to frame that and name that, and hopefully get you back on here. We could BS some more about the fight game, combat sports, and hockey, my friend.
Yeah, anytime. Appreciate you having me.
Definitely a pleasure, James. You enjoy the rest of your evening there. I know you said you were doing an early Father's Day with your family, since you're going to be gone next weekend. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll definitely catch up soon, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, my friend. All right, everyone. That was James the Hooligan Brooks. Another fun interview in the books here on the Real and the Rare. Guys, it's definitely an interesting sport, an interesting aspect to be bringing to the combat sports world, as hockey fights on synthetic ice, as we were talking about with James. Hopefully the idea is, as they continue to grow into bigger arenas, you get the guys on actual ice again, and see this thing grow and be be one of these bigger sports that's out there growing. Love the athletes involved. Appreciate all of them hopping on. I will have another interview with another BKFC Ice Fighter tomorrow afternoon. Other than that, everyone enjoy the rest of your Sunday evenings. I will be back also with Professor and the Pupil later Monday evening, Tuesdays inside the pigskin. This Wednesday, obviously, I'm on with Ben Troop and the Fan in the End. And, as I've already said, we have a special pre-recorded interview that we're going to be doing with, a former NFL player. We'll be airing it later in August, working out another former Eagle to be hopping on with me and Ben in the coming weeks. So, guys, please make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on the YouTube channel there. Hit that, smash that notification bell, and stay up to date with all the programming here on the South Florida Tribune Media Network. I'm Steve. This was another fun one, and we will see you guys soon. Peace out, my friends.